Look, if you even Google this right here, you can Google which guitarist sold his soul to the devil. The legendary blues guitarist Robert Johnson is famous for the myth that he sold his soul to the devil in exchange for his extraordinary musical talent. People don't understand, man, like how powerful music is. Y'all just hear this stuff and bumping on this music. You know, this is why I talk about music like Playboy Cardi and all this stuff, man. How I think he's really like summoning demons in his music, man. I really do. And I'm not trying to say that that's anything bad about him or nothing, but I think it's the people who are behind him. Hence, it's like, yo, man, they're obviously using the music to control people.
Conjuring spirits from the past and the future. This gift can bring healing, but it also attracts demons.
Where do we begin? Sinners. What an incredible movie, man. I say, after watching this movie, I had to sit down and I had to meditate at least for the rest of the night after I had seen this movie. There are so many metaphors in this movie of how they take on religion, slavery, music. It's all put together into this movie. Now, this is an interesting photo. I'm not sure what this is. They say supposedly it's based on this. Let's just check this out real quick. Preacher Boy Sammie was based on Robert Johnson in the 1930s, was an American musician who accordingly sold his soul for rock and roll. Legend says Robert, with his guitar, met the devil at a crossroads, who then tuned his guitar and only gave it back to Robert in exchange for his soul. In Sinners, the Sammie music called the vampires, and they said they wanted his music, and he still had the same guitar 60 years later. Yep. Let's look this up. Let's do some research on this one real quick. Robert Johnson. The deal with the devil part was never part of Robert Johnson's legacy. It was a modern invention, and there was no singular crossroads. There were several from folk fables. So these guys are trying to say they cut deals with the devil. They say that Robert Johnson took a deal with the devil, but then Sinners goes and uses the metaphor of vampires, because they said, like, okay, yeah, we know we can't call the white people devils, so let's just make them vampires instead. I want to see the other person who this guy said, no, Buddy Guy. Oh yeah, well, he's in the movie. He's supposed to be the best guitar player ever. They say that Buddy Guy influenced Jimi Hendrix. Woo, man, we're doing some, okay, see, that's why you got to go see these movies, man. We're doing some research. We're doing some research right here. The interesting thing about this movie is that Buddy Guy makes a cameo in the movie Sinners. He's actually portrayed as the young preacher boy in the movie, the one I told you that said, oh, I'm not going to be on this slave plantation. And then it shows that he goes on to be a successful musician, but he still has the marks on his face from the vampire in the movie. Now, I gotta say, so they say it's loosely based off of him, but it's not really him. But that story of Robert Johnson was pretty interesting. I might need to go back and read up on that one. I really think that they use the whole metaphor as vampires, as the devil, and people who control the music industry, because you'll see in just a second here that the movie focuses on, like, this is the main guy who like plays the main vampire, and then one of the guys is like saying, hey, you the devil, man. And isn't it just ironic that he happens to be a white guy, and then some of the guys that he recruits into his vampire crew or cult happen to be part of the KKK? The metaphors in this movie are insane, yo. And it's almost like if y'all can't read between the lines, I don't know what to tell y'all, man. How they convince his woman, and we'll get into this in a minute, but like they seduce her with music. They're using music to seduce people. Now, this is something that I've said in the music industry a long time, man, is that music is powerful, and that music can control frequencies and vibrations of people. They definitely discuss that in this movie, where there's a scene where they go from old music from all different cultures and all different times of ancient history to now. They even show elements of hip hop in it, and also the evolution of hip hop from the 1980s all the way up to, you know, the 90s to what's going on now. And then they go back down to the blues, and then they go to like gospel, then they go to African music and Indian tribal music, and then also ancient Asian music. They use music to infiltrate. Sammie, I guess, aka the preacher boy, he's seducing everybody. He's wooing everybody with his music. We'll get into it later on. But the devil, or shall I say the vampire, comes after him and says, with you and your music, you can set the people free, or something like that. And just like, I need you and I need your music. You're the one I came for. And then he's the one that basically tells this guy, you're the devil, huh, man? You're the devil. And it's interesting, ironically, that this is the guy who plays the devil in the movie, who's saying, I need to get you. You are the one. Oh, man. Oh, man, these metaphors. This is my point, man. This movie is definitely telling you about the power of music. And this is what I've been trying to say, man, in multiple videos, man.
Their little cousin Sammie was the missing piece with his obvious musical abilities and his not so obvious ancestral inheritance of being a griot. The film starts off by giving us a bit of lore about griot. Griot, or griots, aren't just performers. They're custodians of ancestral memory.
Yeah, I love this scene right here, or just this shot of him driving, you know what I'm saying, like him just driving down the slave plantations where they're all picking cotton. And I remember he tells his dad while he's playing his guitar, he's like, Dad, I need to play this guitar. And his dad's like, you know, nah, man, you need to stay right here. And, you know, basically the metaphor again, work the 9 to 5 on this slave plantation. And he said, I will not stay here like y'all on this slave plantation. Powerful, man. And he gets in his car after the whole thing happens, and he gets off and he drives up out of there like, I'm out of here, man. And we're going to get to that in just a minute. I was like, man, there's so many metaphors in this movie, man. So many metaphors. When he said that, I felt that, man. I felt that. There were like 2 powerful scenes in this movie. I mean, there was a lot of powerful scenes, but there were 2 like main ones where I was like, I felt that when he said that about, I will not stay here on this slave plantation. Boom, man. I feel like that's going on today. I love the scene of the movie. Let's see if we can find it where, and this is why I say that y'all should always watch the credits, because there's a scene in the movie towards the middle of the credits, and I saw a lot of people get up and leave the theater, and it's like, you know, y'all that left the theater, y'all kind of missed out on an important part, because it shows Buddy Guy at the end of the movie. You know what I'm saying? Like at the very, like after the credits, you know what I'm saying? You don't see him during the movie, but if you stay, you know, for those of us that have a longer attention span, you see Buddy Guy at the end of the movie. And there's a scene where one of the brothers gets turned into the vampire. Remember when I go back here and I tell you that the brother, you know, he got turned into a vampire by one of the girlfriends. So there's a scene, and now keep in mind, this is the 1930s. So now we fast forward to the 1990s. And now it's like, here's Buddy, you know what I'm saying, a grown man, you know, who was this kid in the very beginning, but now he's a grown man. And they come to visit him, and they're still the same age because they're vampires. And they basically said, my brother said to never do anything to you and to let you, you know, grow to be an old man. Okay, so now you see, this is where we fast forward to the 90s. And it shows Michael B. Jordan and his girlfriend, who you just saw from the 1930s, you know, now they're in the 90s, but they're still the same age. And they're like, hey, we wanted to pay you a visit. This is a great comment, though, that somebody wrote right here. It said, so did he make a deal with the devil because he became famous? Yeah, man. I'm starting to see more and more people say that this is loosely based off of Robert Johnson. But yeah, see that sweater, though, that Michael B. Jordan's wearing? I know it's kind of hard to see, but if you see that sweater right there, that sweater was money back in the 90s, man. It's still kind of money today. I would still rock that today. But let's go back to Robert Johnson. Although his recording career spanned only 7 months, he is recognized as a master of the blues, particularly the Delta blues style, and as one of the most influential musicians of the 20th century. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame describes him perhaps as the first ever rock star. Oh, man. Well, I guess now we're going to have to go and listen to his music. According to the legend, He made a deal with the devil at a crossroads where the devil tuned his guitar and returned it, granting him mastery of the instrument. You see, man, I like these types of movies, man, because these types of movies make you think, and then it makes you go back and it makes you do your research. Well, for those of us that care to do these things, some people just watch the movie and just say, "Oh, that was a good movie." But you know, some of us that like want to think a little deeply, we're gonna be like, "Oh, okay, this is an interesting storyline that went back and told us an old myth." So yeah, man, like I said, fantastic movie. Lots of metaphors in this movie. Definitely a hidden message in this movie. It's definitely portraying, I think, what's going on currently in the music industry and currently what is going on in American culture. And they just, you know, went back to kind of tell you maybe not much has really changed, man.